Today, we're going to be talking about the program, giving an overview, and allowing for time for questions and a discussion on the program. My name is Thea Rittenhouse. I am the Farm Equity Advisor at CDFA, and I'm joined today by Carmen Carrasco, who is the Small Farm Liaison with CDFA. Before we get started, we wanted to make sure that we let everyone know that this presentation can be available in Spanish if you prefer. We can set up a breakout room for that. So please raise your hand if you prefer that, and if not, just know we are able to answer questions and answer them in both English and Spanish as we prepare for this presentation.
Si hay alguien aquí que necesite que la sesión sea dada en español, por favor levanten la mano o avísenos a través del chat y con gusto haremos una sesión por separado para proveer la información en español. Muchas gracias.
Okay, seeing no hands raised or information in the chat, feel free again to let us know of those needs at any time. We're going to go ahead and get started with today's presentation. I put a link in the chat here to the RFA, the request for applications on this grant program. And we're going to be basically walking through this request for applications first. And this will take about 20 minutes. And then at the end of our presentation, we'll open it up for questions. And this is the time to answer questions on the grant application itself or any other things that you're wondering about concerning this grant, the timelines, the requirements, etc. Here, I'm putting this again in the chat in case anyone has joined late, didn't see that. It's at the top of the screen there. So please follow along if you have this already in front of you. This morning we'll talk about, or this afternoon we'll talk about all about this grant program. So first, the purpose of our program, this Beginning Farmer and Farmworker Training and Workforce Development Program grant, BFFTP as we'll refer to it, is a new grant program. It is funded through the 2021 California General Fund budget. At this time, it's funded through the 2021 budget, and then additional funding is projected for another round in the following year. This program will provide support to organizations to enhance or expand beginning farmer and or farm worker training and apprenticeships programs. And so overall, we're really looking to ensure that the resources that are within this grant program are dedicated to strengthening support for socially disadvantaged beginning farmers in the first 10 years of business, and farm workers who might need job skills training or upskilling to provide job sustainability within the ag industry. And then a secondary goal was really to build and grow regional networks to ensure that organizations can provide adequate support and training opportunities for those most underserved in the ag industry. And the program really is supporting a few priorities here. So regional collaborative partnerships, really ensuring that there are opportunities for the grant applicant to indicate multiple partnerships to ensure that socially disadvantaged and beginning farmers and farm workers have the resources they need to be successful and adapt to changing climate and economic factors in California agriculture. We're really looking for applications from organizations who serve primarily socially disadvantaged producers. And then within this grant program, which we'll talk about the tracks that are included within this program, we do have a farm worker training and workforce development track. And this is really looking at programs who are considering the unique language needs and cultural needs of the farm worker community and located in areas with higher numbers of farm workers. And certainly strengthening our networking and planning and overcoming structural barriers such as land access and access to capital, equipment, and apprenticeships, which is alignment with our California Ag Vision and roadmap for California agriculture. And I'll turn it over to Carmen to talk about the funding and the duration for this grant program.
Thank you, Thea. Thanks, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Good. Okay. So I'm just gonna go through the funding and duration section. This is as Thea mentioned, through the state general funds, there are $5 million available right now for this first phase of this grant program, and it'll be divided into the 3 different tracks for this first round. And there's going to be an additional $5 million for the following fiscal year. That's the allocation that we have for now. And the funding tracks for the program planning and development grant, the minimum award for each project will be $50,000 and a maximum of $100,000. The maximum grant term for track 1 projects is 1 year. And then we go into the program implementation grants, which are tracks 2 and 3. Track 2 is for beginning farmer implementation programs, which have a minimum award amount of $100,000 up to $1 million for a maximum term of 2 years. And the farm worker training and workforce development implementation programs, which are going to be funded under track 3, also have the same minimum award of $100,000 up to $1 million for a maximum. And again, the maximum term year is 2 years. This is a reimbursement type grant program, which means that you have to submit invoices to CDFA after the expenses have been incurred, and those can be set up quarterly or monthly, however your preference is. There is also a possibility of organizations that request an advance payment. CDFA has implemented guidelines for those organizations that do request advance payments. And you can follow the link in the RFA for the regulations that are set up for the advance payments. There are no matching funds required for this grant program, which means that CDFA will cover all of the expenses related to the different categories included in the budget, which you're going to be able to see once you set up your account within the AmpliFund platform, which is the platform that CDFA is using for this grant program. If you go to the website, there's a link on AmpliFund and how to set up an account. That was scheduled or organized at the beginning of the grant period. You can also please refer to Appendix B for additional information on allowable costs, specifically for this grant program. We are following CDFA's general grant guidelines for allowable costs, but there's also some additional information on some categories for this grant program, such as capital expenses. This program allows for land acquisition for any of the 3 tracks of this program, and also some other expenses such as equipment. I'm sorry, I have a big truck right outside. But you can go to Appendix B for more information. And the timeline also updated on our website, which you can see the different dates that we have, the application period and the closing dates, and the implementation of the programs are scheduled for November 1st. That is our projection. Am I missing anything? Eligibility. Eligibility, Thea, do you want to touch on that? or actually I can finish this eligibility. I just, this truck.
It's okay.
Sorry. Okay, so eligible entities include nonprofit organizations, tribal governments, and community colleges. Colleges are eligible as co-applicants with another on-the-ground organization, and entities must have demonstrated expertise in beginning farmer programs and working with socially disadvantaged small-scale farmers and farm workers, and or workforce development programs. Again, for you can follow also sections 330.2 of CDFA's grant administration manual for regulations and details. And to apply, you can follow this link to the AmpliFund platform, and it's going to take you to the application. You have to register for an account, and then you can go through the application. Again, the link for the webinar that the AmpliFund staff hosted is available on our program website. So I will turn it over to Thea for the grant recipient information, or for the next, for the funding tracks. Go ahead, Thea, thank you.
Thanks, Carmen. So yes, like we said, the AmpliFund questions in the grant portal that we're using, you can find the copy of the webinar on our website, which we'll put in the chat again for all of you to look at if you weren't able to attend that webinar. And if you have questions about that aspect of this this application process, we're happy to refer you to AmpliFund staff who will be able to help with those specific questions. So let's talk briefly about the tracks that we're looking at in this project. As Carmen mentioned, there are 3. Track 1 is really for program planning and curriculum development grants. These are 1-year grants. This really is designed to be helping those organizations who haven't yet started these types of programs, who need to have some funding, hire staff, secure opportunities, or you know, develop curriculum for these training programs, whether it be farm worker training program or farmer training program. And so this track 1 is really for those that pre-project implementation costs to help cover that. It offers support up to the amount of $100,000 to fully develop programs serving either of those 2 audiences. And for those who'd like to formalize or expand the reach of your existing programs, you can also apply under track 2 or 3. And I'll say also, because this is a 1-year grant, there are opportunities for you know, feeding into other potential pots of funding, or the second round of funding for this program, which will be coming later. Just to quickly answer the question in the chat from Deborah about past funded grants, this is a new grant program. There are no past funded projects for CDFA. This is a brand new program we're talking about. Track 2 here, these are 2-year projects. These are up to $1 million in requested funds. This can be for a host of things that are listed in our allowable costs, but that includes funding for infrastructure, tools, land, regional networking opportunities, apprenticeships, and those various activities that are associated with those. And again, priority is given to organizations who are working with historically underserved, socially disadvantaged, small-scale farmers and ranchers, and you know, being able to serve and support and mentor farmers in those really critical first years of business. Also, again, looking to prioritize partnerships as in track 1, as in all of the tracks, for beginning farmer and rancher support. Track 3 here is, again, program implementation. So organizations who are really looking to serve the ag industry and farm workers training and workforce development. So offering opportunities in a variety of settings that work best for the farm worker community to be able to upskill job labor support within the ag industry. These grants are also available in the amount of up to $1 million. Again, still focusing on regional collaboration We have had several questions about how this could pair with existing federal Department of Labor and Section 167 WIA and National Farm Worker Jobs programs. This is an allowable program to complement that. The ability for this program to serve farm workers that are continuing to work in the ag industry and also those not currently served through the federal programs. We really want to make sure that these types of programs are looking at tailoring curriculum and instruction to the needs of the farm worker community, a specific focus on appropriate language and materials, cultural considerations, setting and venue, timing of curriculum to ensure that the farm workers are able to attend and participate in these programs. Examples might include new ag technology, some types of certification programs, training or increased management practices or irrigation industry-specific skills, training that might be offered to farm workers depending on the industry. And then also, again, we're looking to try to look at geographic areas with higher numbers of farm workers to make sure that there is a larger reach and impact with this funding. And I will turn it to Carmen for the review process.
Thank you, Thea. So I just wanted to touch a little bit on the review process and how the applications are going to be scored. If you look at the RFA, we have a table, which is a scoring rubric that we're going to be applying to each application, and the different sections for this scoring points with the points available for each section. So you're going to see the project summary, the narrative and timeline is worth 20 points. Community need is 45 points, and there's two different items there under community need, which is the narrative and the priority groups and impact of your project. There's also a project evaluation section, and very important, your budget and budget narrative, which is part of the application in Amplifund. You're going to see once you finish all of the questions, once you go through all the application, the next section is going to be your budget and budget narrative, where you're going to be able to complete each of the categories in the budget. Once you go into the platform, you're going to see a little plus sign on each, after each category, you're going to see a little plus sign, which means that you can add line items under that category. If you run into any issues or any questions, please let us know. And if it's something technical, we will make sure to connect you with somebody in Amplifund, or we can try and get answers for you. But if you have questions specific on the budget and budget narrative, also please reach out or take this opportunity to ask any questions. Then you go into project sustainability, which is another section in the scoring, and the project partners and commitments, where you can submit letters of support from outside stakeholders, and also letters of commitment from the partners in your project. So all applicants will be notified regarding the status of their grant applications, and applicants not selected for funding will receive feedback regarding the applications within 60 days after receiving notification. Also, we just wanted to say that the CDFA is also going to be developing an urban ag program, which is going to have, is going to be a new project with opportunities for funding for projects that are not funded under this grant program, and also that can be a better fit for urban ag projects as well. And I think that's it. Thea, do you want to talk about the grant recipient information and the reporting? And that should be the end. Thank you.
Yeah, so just finally to wrap up on the description of the program, we just wanted to take a minute to talk about what will happen kind of the next steps in the process after you've submitted your application. Again, the applications are open until August 1st. That's still quite a bit of time. So encourage all of you to answer, reach out with questions, and we're happy to help and answer them in any way that we can. Once you have submitted your application and we've gone through the review process, which I've put in the chat that we're seeking external technical reviewers. If you're interested, please submit an application. And for once your grant project is selected for funding, we'll go through a process to establish a grant agreement, and you'll be asked to complete a couple of state forms to be able to set up payment from the state government if you've never had a grant agreement with CDFA before, and sign and agree to a grant agreement package, which will basically include all of the deliverables that you listed in your application. This does take some time, and it until this is signed, you can't start work on your project. So it's critical once that you are awarded funding that you are able to have a good process to be able to communicate with our staff as we get this paperwork out and signed, and also initiate the payment process for your projects. And as Carmen mentioned earlier, there's a report, our reporting is going to include monthly or quarterly invoices. We will have also, because we're focusing so much in networking, we will also be organizing networking calls. We want to make sure that those that are funded through this program have time and space to be able to talk with other organizations who are funded, and learn from each other, and maybe potentially, establish some best practices and try to make this work go beyond the scope of the current funding opportunity. Just wanted to draw again your attention to Appendix B that lists the allowable costs and also our definitions at the end there. So that's our overview of the program itself. Carmen did mention the Urban Ag program. That's not yet been developed in any way, but we will be holding listening sessions, and look forward to talking and engaging with all of you on that separate opportunity at a different time. And certainly we'll be working with the Office of Farm to Fork on that, as they will be the lead for that program. So now we'll open up for questions and answers, discussion, any kind of questions that you need to be answered. So either put it in the chat or raise your hand and come off of mute. We're happy to help in any way we can.
Okay, I've got a question real quick, if you don't mind. First of all, thank you for sharing all that information. So the project that we're thinking about applying for funding for is a project that we've utilized in different states, and we want to implement it in California. Do you recommend, because we're just kind of building it in California, do you recommend applying for track 1 or a different track?
I think that would depend on your needs. If you're really looking to start up something new to better understand how it's going to work in California, develop the actual state-tailored curriculum, I would recommend applying for track 1. That it might be a better fit. And when you're ready to jump into the program or it's ready to go, that would be more, I think, more appropriate for track 2. And I will say we will have 2 rounds of funding for this project, so this particular program. So track 1 projects could be able to prepare organizations to then apply for track 2 in the following requests for applications.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a question about farmer housing being allowable cost. Now, we don't prohibit, I'm going to answer this in that we don't prohibit stipends for apprentices. If you're putting apprentices through program, those need to be reasonable to allow for participation in the program. So that's how that could be included as a part of your budget. That was from Sarah. Liana asks about track 1 being appropriate for formalizing curriculum for an existing program. Liana, I think, yes, if that is what is the barrier, that's the last step, or that's what you need to be able to do. If you've got other things included in there, you need a longer period of time, a 2-year program, that's going to be up to you. But if you're just talking about curriculum development or formalizing your curriculum, it would seem that 1 year, $100,000 might be a more appropriate fit. That's up to your discretion.
There's another question from, I think I don't want to miss this one. From Jessica, how should we build a networking and mentoring partnership components into the budget and timeline? So if that's going to be done through a partnership, perhaps include them in your budget as contractors, if that makes sense. So, you know, if it's for staffing time, or if they're going to be part of the project, you can also include them in the salaries and wages and fringe narrative if it is staff time, and any other costs, you know, can be put in their own categories. And I think I saw another question.
Oh, I just wanted to add to that comment by Jessica. If you're referring to if CDFA were organizing networking opportunities, like it would just be a call. So I know some grants have and it would be virtual, not an in-person gathering at this time, although those costs would all be covered, but don't need to be mentioned in your budget or timeline specifically.
Yes, since you were talking about the collaborative calls. And then Jesus has a question about if we know how long it takes for the Division of Apprenticeship Standards to approve once it is submitted to the agency for to approve an apprenticeship program. We don't know, but we can reach out to the Department of Labor and find out, right? Yeah.
We certainly can, and we can post those answers on our website as soon as we know that answer. I don't even know an estimate that we could provide at this time, but we will follow up on that. It's a very good question.
Yes, but the idea was that, you know, this grant program would allow for an organization that is going to be seeking accreditation from that department to be able to cover the expenses through this grant program associated. But yes, of course, we also need to find out how long it's going to take. And Lauren, did we answer this question, Thea, from Lauren for track 1? Can the applicant apply for funds to further develop or innovate upon existing curriculum? Yes, the answer is yes. You can use this to formalize or expand programs, and that includes track 1 projects for you know, if you're looking into adding other components or further developing a curriculum, yes, this should be covered under this grant program.
Okay, did we get all of the questions in the chat here?
I think we have one more from Jessica.
Okay, examples for outcomes for track 1. So really for track 1, it's a 1-year project. We're looking to, again, build up the capacity for organizations who might not have developed a curriculum yet for these types of programs. So even having a final program and being able to get that up and running at the end of year 1 would be a measurable change that we're looking for. We don't expect for there to be you know, we're realistic that this is a 1-year project and meant to be capacity building for organizations to then implement that program and be able to demonstrate measurable change within year 2 to year 3. So if we're looking for track 1 measurable change, we need to look at estimates of what those things might be further down the line. Thanks, Jessica.
Joel Kramer from the RCD San Diego, please go ahead.
Hi there. I think I heard you mentioning earlier that there'd be some requirement for continuity or kind of how the project is sustained after the grant's over. I might have a question about that, but could you explain a little more?
Sure, Joel. In the application, certainly we have a section about demonstrating partnerships or other external sources of funding or other measurable ways in which the funding would continue beyond the course of this program. I think we're all pretty realistic that 2 years to 3 years is not enough of length of time to fully support these particular groups, beginning farmers, farm workers, going beyond that and extending to make sure that we're able to continue to provide some type of support to ensure that they're successful in their businesses is pretty key. So that's what we're really looking for, to see how your partnerships on the ground in your region, potentially other grant applications that you have in the works that are longer term to help to ensure that this funding would then feed into and leverage other sources of funding as well.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely on my mind. I really appreciate that there's such an emphasis on land acquisition in this grant, because that really is a limiting factor for so many farmers. But again, that's a big financial burden to carry for a growing program. So just trying to be realistic about how much we can do after year 2. Thank you.
Other questions or comments, please feel free to raise your hand or put the questions in the chat.
There's another question about supplies and tools. There's an $8,000 limit. Does this mean 8,000 limit per item? It's going to be $8,000 for supplies. That's the maximum. If you have any other items or higher expenses, you can put them in the other category. So supplies is limited to 8,000. Usually CDFA has a cap for this category. It's a maximum of 5,000, but we increased it to 8,000 for this grant program.
Great question, Lauren. Certainly we have had a lot of, Lauren asked about applying for the beginning farm worker training program. Would that preclude eligibility for the urban ag program? Absolutely not. We're hoping to work together to make sure that these grants are overlapping in timelines, but also trying to leverage these projects together. Now, some might be a better fit for one or the other. Certainly, a main difference here being this program is not currently eligible for individual farmers, farm businesses. The urban ag program will be. And I think that is maybe one question to start off with, but it certainly would not preclude eligibility in any way. If you're really wanting to know what would be the better fit, a good idea would be to just, set up a call with Carmen and I and try to talk through what your ideas are and figure out what would be the best strategy. This program will have 2 grant 2 RFA, 2 rounds of funding. The urban ag program will, at this point, have 1 round of funding, unless we're able to secure future funding, of course.
Thea, is the second round of funding for the BFFTP next year, or is it in 2 years?
Lauren, we're not sure yet. There's a little bit of flexibility with that, but
Okay.
to be determined. Deborah asked about, we are including, yes, this program is eligible for ranchers as well as farmers, certainly. And ranch workers also, if that's what you're asking about, farm workers by definition. Yes. Other questions, comments? I think we got everything from the chat, but Emma, no, there's no detriment to that. We want to support all types of applications with this funding. We're just trying to include scenarios that might be the what costs might be associated with this program. So no, there's no points or detriment related to that in any way. Everyone has a different circumstance, I think, in terms of these programs. Okay, I don't see any more questions in the chat. Does anyone last call for questions? Raise your hand if you'd like to speak, or go ahead and put a question in there. Again, Carmen and I will post this recording to the website, and we will also post answers to the questions that we had also to the BFFTP website. It might take us a couple days to get some of those answers, but we'll make sure that we get those also posted in a timely manner. Okay. I'll just go ahead and put my email in here again. It's also on the RSA. And Carmen can put hers in there as well. You feel free to reach out to us at any time.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, everybody.